Hi, COP 2220 students. I am creating this video to discussing inputting numeric value and making sure it's valid. So up until this point, when we expected someone to type in an int, a double, or a float, we just hoped they did so, and we never actually tested or make them do such a thing. Well, I'm going to introduce three new functions, one called a get a double, get a float, and get an int, and this can be done multiple ways. So these three functions will accept a string, which would be the prompt to enter the double, or the prompt to enter the float, or the prompt to enter the integer. I'm going to pass the variable that I'm retrieving by reference, and here we go. So that in main, I'm going to set up an int, a double, and a float, int, a double, and a float. And by the way, I don't think I need this guy, so let's just do int, double, and a float. And I'm going to use this get int. I'm going to say get int, enter your age, and then if it's successful, I'll say you are this old. Do the same thing for this weight, do the same thing for how much someone makes per hour. Let's run this and see what happens, and then we'll talk about the code. So the code begins and says enter your age. If someone types Q's, it's going to say invalid numeric value, try again. They press any key, it says enter your age. If they push anything but a numeric value, it's going to yell at them, and until they type in a valid number. So now they are 55 years old. Now let's do the same thing for weight. Now this, I believe, is a double. So they're going to type in anything but a number, and it's going to say invalid numeric value. If they type in anything but a number, ZX34, invalid. They type in a number, 67.78. It's going to say UA, and I have it rounding off to 2 places. So I validated this double, and now one more time. And this is how much do you make per hour? This time I'm getting a float. So if somebody says I make 100 per hour, that would be invalid. How much do you make? And they eventually have to type in a numeric value, and you make 48.56 per hour. So that's how we do, or that's the result of what we're doing. So let's take a look at these functions. So here's my validating the double. So I send in a character array, which is a string. I'm going to call it M for message. I pass in the variable by reference. I do create a flag. I'm just going to call it a good flag. I have a do-while loop because as I validate, most validation is done in a do-while loop. First thing I'll do in this do-while loop is I'm going to set the good flag is to yes, making the assumption that they are entering a good double. I'm going to display the prompt. That's this M. So there's my prompt. And now here's the meat and potatoes of the trick. I'm going to do a test for a scanf, a long float, which is a double, into the address of D, because D is an address. I'm going to embed that in an if statement. If this equals a 0, that means this scanf failed. If this doesn't equal 0, then the scanf was successful. So what you didn't know up until this point is scanf returns a numeric value. 0, the scanf failed. Anything else, the scanf did not fail. So if the scanf fails, I'm going to say invalid numeric value, try again. I'm going to pause so they can read it, throw the flag to N, flush the keyboard buffer, and I have to do that because if they entered characters and then pressed enter, it's going to consume one thing, and then the enter is going to be in the keyboard buffer, and it's going to mess me up. So there's my flush to clear out the keyboard buffer, and here's my keyboard buffer flush clearing out routine. Here's the float. Everything exact same as the double, except this is a float, and this is just a %F. Here is the int, everything the exact same thing as the float and the double, except this time it's an integer. And if you wanted to get more specific, since we have one for int, double, and float, you could say invalid integer value, invalid floating point number, and maybe invalid numeric value. It's entirely up to you on how you want to handle that. One more time, let's make sure this works, and I'll let this video end. So I'm going to run it. And it says enter your age. So I enter my age as RR, invalid, press any key, YY, press any key, E4, invalid, and eventually I enter a valid number. You are 56 years old. Enter your weight, 3E, And notice if a number comes first, it actually does read the number and then stop after the numeric digits. So that's a whole different type of validation that we're not going to get into, at least in this COP 2220. Let's do how much they make per hour. They make that per hour invalid. They make $45.56 an hour. That's how much they make. Everything looks like it works. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next video.